What is up, guys? We are going live with my buddy of 20 years and Motley the investor. We're going to be talking crypto. We're going to be talking hex. We're going to be talking Pulsechain and Pulsex, and I'm excited. So let's get started with this right away. We have Motley, and let me get this.
There we
There
go.
we go. What up, guys? How you doing? Thanks for coming on today.
Doing great.
Yeah,
Joe's
thanks for
already
having
taking
us.
notes and we haven't even started.
Yep.
Love it. Love it.
So we've actually been friends for about 20 years now, maybe longer, right around 20 years.
Yeah, it was around like 14 we met. So
Yeah, and he's just learning about crypto and
crypto.
hacks and everything. So you could see yesterday I was very excited because there's so many awesome things to share. But when I get so excited, sometimes I skip over things or I jump around a lot. So Motley was nice enough to come on and just, hopefully break it down a little bit more detail than I was.
It feels good getting your friends into something like this, doesn't it, Sam?
It does.
Yeah.
Because it's like a cheat code. It's like you press XX0 up and then you're in and you're like.
Yeah, because I mean, look, I don't know what you've done before, Joe. I came in on that stream and I saw that I think you're predominantly focused in like Forex trading right now, right?
Yeah,
That's where you're diverting
price action
a lot of
trader.
your energy and stuff. Yeah. What do you do career wise?
I'm a truck driver and crane operator.
Okay, very cool, very cool. And yeah, it's interesting, right? Because like Sam said, it does seem like a cheat code. Like this asset class is just completely different than anything any of us have ever gotten involved in. Where I know Sam and I are big into real estate. I know you're messing around with Forex, Joe. It's just like what's the thing we're all trying to earn, right? And it's financial freedom. We're looking for that cheat code to cut off a couple years so we can enjoy it and not be 50, 60, 70
Right.
years old and still busting our balls trying to stay ahead of inflation, trying to stay ahead of taxes. And it's hard to do that these days. 12% on your real estate returns. I don't know how much you average on Forex. I'm sure you thought initially you were making a killing, but even then, right? Like you're still working though, right? Like you're still
Yep.
truck driving, still doing heavy
Yep.
machinery, stuff like that.
Yep.
So it seems like you're killing it, but with the inflation and taxes these days, like we never get ahead. We just continue to work, continue to work.
Yeah.
It's they came out what 8.5%, and that's what
For
they
inflation.
that's their skewed numbers, right? So like we're looking well into double digits. So it's hard to find an asset class that actually competes with that. And I would argue that crypto is probably the only thing that you can actually compete against today's inflation and taxes.
Molly, can you give Joe a little bit of context, or anybody watching, just like a little bit of your story, because
Yeah.
Joe's never heard that before. And I last time we chatted, I thought it was fascinating. I think that would be helpful just to give some of the context of how you got into crypto.
Yeah, I'll keep it a little bit shorter than the one I did on his channel, Joe. But pretty much what I was just touching on, right, is I think all of us seek this out. It just we come upon this path at different points in our lives for different reasons. And I was fortunate enough to come along figuring this out pretty early on when I was like maybe between 5 and 7. I was a young kid, but I was pretty perceptive, and I have amazing parents, but they're blue collar, white collar parents, right? Like mom was a school teacher. She's actually just now coming up on retirement, and she's been teaching for almost like 40 years. Crazy. And even when she retires, she probably still won't have like she'll have to still budget and like never get to fully enjoy her life, right? Like she as a school teacher, they just don't make good money. My dad started off in all kinds of odd end jobs. Like he did microfiche in the start before that became obsolete. He did a DOD inspector for a concrete plant, worked in the healthcare industry, just kind of job to job. Never made like crazy amount of money, but they were great people. But at a young age, I always saw that they had one issue, right, and that underlying issue was just never enough money, trying to make bills meet, trying to make sure their kids were taken care of, that we had a good future. And it always created like a stress in their life. And I picked up on it very early on, and I realized I never wanted money to be like an issue for me as a young kid. Like I was able to pick up on that. It wasn't like it was that pressing in my family, but I kind of noticed those underlying cues that like my parents were always stressing out on getting the bills paid, paying the mortgage, making sure electricity is good, making sure kids are got the clothes, needs the food, school supplies, everything. And I was just like, I don't ever want to be in that position where like good people are faced with strife because they can't keep up with the times, right? They can't keep up with inflation. They can't keep up with their bills. And I just realized it's like it turns good people and has them face unnecessary stresses in their lives, and they don't get to enjoy their lives, right? Like where maybe they could have spent more time with me and my sister, they were too busy working overtime or trying to find that next job or trying to figure out a way to make ends meet. So that kind of set me on my path early on. Went through high school, was pretty smart, but kind of lazy procrastinator because I didn't have to try that hard. I'd do my stuff before class, to the next class, skip it, whatever. Did it well in high school, went to college, was pretty much too immature at the time for college. I just wanted to party, hang out with beautiful women, and not focus on my classes again. Kind of applied the same procrastination that I did in high school, right? And I wasn't financially literate at that time. I know I didn't want money to be an issue, but I just didn't actually put in the time for the financial literacy. And I was taking out student loans I didn't realize were so detrimental. I didn't understand what kind of financial burdens I was putting on top of my shoulders, but I was taking loan after loan. I was working full time at the campus gym. And one day it came up where I was fucking around and I didn't go to my guidance counselor, and I missed one of the classes that was a prereq to all my other classes next year. And it only came once a year, so I couldn't take it again. So I lost my scholarship. Since I wasn't active in school, I couldn't take out student loans. And then like everything hit me like a ton of bricks. I realized I was just like, oh shit, I'm eyeballs in debt. I'm trying to just get this piece of paper that says I can do this job, hopefully in the future. I wasn't busting my ass and focusing on school like I should have been. And I realized I was telling Sam, like, it got to the point where I was just like, I looked at my pantry and like I didn't have any more money in my account, and like I had like a can of beans in there, right? And that was it. I was like, fuck, like I don't have money for food. I don't know what I'm gonna do for next month's rent. Like I just had to change. I realized like
how old were you at that age?
Oh, 21, 22, 22, I think. I was 22.
How old are you now, if you don't mind me asking?
31.
So
31.
9 years ago. Okay. And so you're in that college situation. You're like, it's like fucking right in front of you, and you're like, this is an issue. So then what happened?
Yeah, and I do want to just kind of touch on one thing, because I really do not like the school system. I believe college has become huge big business. It's probably the next big bubble to go, and I believe it's borderline criminal, the stuff they allow these students to do with student loans, because they are finances don't get taught in school. I don't care who you are, they just don't get taught, and kids at 18 years old are unaware of what they're signing up. And I've always been that person. It's like, you signed to something, you agree to it, cool, like you got to make it happen. And I paid off those loans, but man, you are putting a lot of burden on kids that just don't know what they're agreeing to. So I'll just leave it at that as far as that goes. But so I knew I needed to make a change. I was actually fortunate when I was working at the gym in college. I ran into what soon became my mentor in real estate. He was a business professor at the university I was going to, and he had a big real estate portfolio. He was talking to me, telling me about how like I needed to find these different passive income streams. Real estate's a great way to do it. He'd love to show me. So like he took me under his wing. I would go to his properties. I'd help manage them. I'd learn it from doing all the work and repairs that needed to be done, to the bookkeeping, everything. Oops, sorry, my thing's shutting off on me. And he gave me a bunch of books to read, and the first two books I read was Rich Dad Poor Dad and Richest Man in Babylon. So I read those two books, and by the time I finished those two books, like the official like light switch kind of flipped on. I was just like, oh, like I'm never going to get ahead if I'm not making money when I go to sleep at night. Like it became very apparent that you're not going to be able to become financially free just being like a wage slave and going to a 9 to 5 or doing 40-hour, 80-hour work weeks. Even doctors, like it just wasn't going to make sense. So I'm sitting there and I'm trying to think of what my options are. I'm up to my eyeballs in debt. I don't really have too many skills. I did a lot of construction stuff back in the day. Did framing, welding, sandblasting, you name it. Construction wise, I've probably done it. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And so I was just like, well, I'm semi-intelligent, but I just lacked the structure and drive to go do stuff. So I was just like, let me check out and see what the military has to offer. I ended up joining the United States Navy. I did nuclear engineering in the United States Navy, so I got a nice little bonus. I was able to start paying down my debts, lived in Japan for a year, and then I just started taking what I learned from my mentor, Rob, in real estate, leveraged what the military offered me, which was the VA loan, And then I just started to get into my real estate portfolio. So I just started buying multi-unit buildings. I would try to buy usually four units, the highest you can be, and still qualify for the VA loan because it's still considered residential. So I'd usually be looking for a triplex or a quadruplex, and I look to use my VA loan, live in one, rent out the rest, and then next year I would buy another one. I'd do the same thing, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. So I built up a real estate portfolio over the years doing that while I was in the military. And that whole time, loved it, was making good money. And I was always looking for the next thing, right? Tried to mess around with stocks, really wasn't for me. Precious metals didn't earn anything while they just sat there in the safe. So I was still looking. And then cryptocurrency, I knew about it, right? Like I knew about it early on back in Bitcoin, but it just didn't make sense to me. Again, I just wasn't financially literate enough to know what really money is, what this belief system in money really is. And I was just like, oh, internet money? That doesn't make any sense. Little do I know today, like all of this is internet money. All of this is zeros and ones. It's just whose ledger are you actually looking at, right? Is it the government's? Is it Bitcoin's? That's all this is zeros and ones. And so I didn't get into it then. Came back around early 2016. I started seeing the cryptocurrency trend, Ethereum. I was just like, okay, I found out you can mine this stuff for free. Like you could build these mining rigs and it would print money out of thin air for you and you could sell it. I was just like, that sounds like a brilliant idea. I'd love to do that. So I made a couple of GPU mining rigs, started mining Ethereum, started speculating on other coins to mine. I probably sunk a little over 10 grand into it. And I didn't know much about computers, cryptocurrency, or anything. So like it was kind of a trial by fire, right? Because I already sunk capital into it. And so I was like learning two different languages, as I'm sure you're aware of. Crypto, if you don't know the terminology, you just start getting lost. Even in computers, if you don't know the terminology, you start getting lost. So I was just deep diving into everything. Got my rigs up and running. Was mining Ethereum. Was buying cryptocurrency, chasing pumps, getting burned, and I was just like, man, I was always the like last of the party. It seemed like, so I was just like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. But a blessing that did come from the mining was I was able to see like warning signs on the walls before other people were. So I was very privy to how much parts should cost, how often they were going out of stock. And so as I was building my mining rigs, I started to realize like, oh, these GPUs are coming back in stock, or this motherboard that holds like 8 cards that wouldn't normally be available is starting to become available. So like that's odd. And you start seeing the cryptocurrencies and the prices and everything trending. You're like, oh shit, like this is probably going to a bear market. And so like I was able to see
So,
that earlier than most. Yeah.
Question on that. So you saw the trend as in like, so GPU is probably, from what you're saying, sounded like it was an early indicator that like, it looks like crypto prices could tank because these are in demand, and now the demand is starting to come down.
Yeah, the demand started to diminish. I mean, you were at one point for like these GPUs that you wanted more processing power with these GPUs, and the top end GPUs, like you were paying 2 to 4x on the MSRP value of them. So you were paying like 4 times the value on one GPU. Gamers hated crypto people because they were eating up all their gaming cards for these mining rigs, and like you just couldn't get them in stock. So then like I started seeing the price come down first. Then I just started seeing them coming back in stock and sitting on shelves. Like there was people that actually ran bots to like snag these GPUs the moment they like hit the online stores. And I was just like, oh, that's interesting. Like, and then you start looking at the trends and the cryptocurrency. It's like, oh, this is crashing. It's like crashing hard, right? So like at that point, I was like, well, I already gotten burned a few times trying to chase a pump. I was like, well, I'm not going to get burned again. So what I did was pretty much consolidated everything I had into Bitcoin and Ethereum, which at the time in my eyes was the blue chip of crypto, right? And then sold off all my rigs, still made a pretty good profit because I sold them more than I bought them way back in the day. And then I just kind of like wiped my hands of it, just kind of put that stuff in cold storage, and then moved back to real estate because after that, Bitcoin or the crypto started crashing pretty hard.
When was that? 17, 18?
That was 17, late 17, I think. Yeah. And then I didn't come back and start purchasing crypto again until I don't remember the exact date, but I was actually going to my shore duty for the Navy, and I was learning how to become a recruiter. And I remember my friend and I were talking about it, and like, yo, like we'd been watching Bitcoin. It was like sitting at 6,000. And we're like, oh, it's probably going to hold here. It's going to probably hold here. And then it finally fell through 6,000. I think we got like down to 3,000 something. And then that was my first buy back into crypto in a while. And ever since then, I've just kind of been keeping my ear to the ground, looking until I stumbled across Richard Hart. And when I found Richard Hart, I was just like super intelligent guy. I was like, I need to follow him. And then I just started learning more and more about cryptocurrency. And yeah, haven't looked back since.
And Joe, what you just started watching or listening, thank you for sharing, Molly. That's awesome. I picked up some new details on what your story is, so I appreciate you sharing that. Joe, what you just started like paying attention to Richard Hart. I mean, like literally in the last hour, you watched a little bit of Richard Hart. What are your thoughts initially?
You obviously know what my main first thoughts are, which I don't want to bring up too much because I know you guys are like big time in it. But
do it.
How is this
do it.
A pump and dump? Like,
ask those, dude. If you think something's
explain why too, and explain why you think that.
Well, I mean, because I mean, everything I've listened to so far and I've heard is you guys are trying to get as many people to pump into HEX apparently as possible. You raise the price. Everybody else at the beginning who bought a ton of it, you know, they're going to be way up, and then they sell it, profit drops, and all of us are screwed in the end. But the big time guys, they all make the money. How is that not? I guess that's where I'm stuck a little bit.
So how's that different than any other speculative asset, right? Like,
no,
so what
right,
do you do? Yeah, right. So it's the same thing. What actually, all right. So if you're going to compare that with any other speculative asset, whether it be currency that you're trading, a house you're trading, gold, silver, stock, anything, you hope that someone buys your asset that you bought at a higher price someday, right?
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with HEX, except with this, there's much better. Richard has deemed these as pumpamentals, I think, than any other asset class that exists, right? So what sucks about gold and silver? Okay, it's hard to transport. Security wise, you either got a provider, you got to trust someone else with it. Doesn't earn you yield. You have to wait on appreciation of the asset. Okay, those are some issues with gold. Stocks. Okay, again, not really in your possession. You hope the price goes up. Some earn you dividends, some do not. Most of it doesn't really compete with inflation. Still middlemen you're going to go through to manage your portfolio. A lot of times you have to be accredited investors to actually get in worthwhile early enough for that stuff. So those are some of the issues with stock. Real estate. Love real estate. Probably one of my favorites. You have to deal with tenants. You have to deal with broken roofs, appliances, headaches, tenants tearing your place up. Maybe vacancies. Vacancies become very costly if you don't fill it within a month or two. Just routine maintenance, again, your time. So there's some objections with that. HEX is a superior one. Cryptocurrency is the fastest appreciating asset known to man, right? So Bitcoin did a 6.9 million X. Nothing competes with that. There's your like proof of concept. HEX is a better store value of Bitcoin. It earns you yield while you hold it. So Richard talks about the only way to actually get rich in this space is to either find the right asset and hold it for a long time, or be a founder, create your own coin. Those are the only two ways to really get rich in this space. Cryptocurrencies, I don't have any overhead. I don't have any tenants to deal with. I don't have to worry about, specifically with HEX, I don't have to worry about any middlemen. I don't have to worry about not earning yield on my gold or silver that sits in the bank. I earn APY. I earn 38% APY average, right? And my staking average goes out further than the current average. And all the externalities that everything else has, like HEX doesn't have. You have, I forgot what it was. I looked up the statistics while I was on stream. You have like $8 billion locked up on average of like 6.4 years. What other financial product does that exist? People are physically not able to sell that asset for the time they agree to. No one else. You can choose from day 1 to 5,555 days. They cannot physically sell that asset at least until 50% completion, just before they can get their principal back. Before that, they're going to get cut into their principal. Anything a little bit above that, they'll start getting their principal plus a little bit of interest, or yield if you want to look at it that way. It actually pays you to essentially create the scarcity of the market, and you're actually required to live up to the word that you said you were going to do and say, I'm going to hold it for 6.4 years. I want that 38% APY. And if you decide to kind of renege on that earlier, you're going to pay the penalties, right? And it's only fair. And those penalties actually get distributed out to the staking class that is holding by their word what they said they're going to lock it up for.
So, Joe, if you like what Motley was just saying, in terms of you locking it up for a certain period of time.
Yeah.
If I said I'm going to lock it up for 5 years and then in a year I'm like, okay, I'm not going to do that anymore, and I cancel that, I lose most of what I put in.
And then everybody else gains from it.
And that goes to everybody else who staked.
Okay, that's different. I like that.
So, but if you have any, like, if you're not sure about, or like you still have questions about what you were just asking, like interrupt or ask those questions.
Yeah, no. So just so you know, for everybody, I've just started learning about this. I am a trade trader, so like I'm brand new within the past 24 hours. We're talking. So.
And this is that, like what you just proposed is probably what's most commonly pushed against cryptocurrency, right? Everyone just views it as like, oh, this is just a giant Ponzi scheme. It's going to collapse at some point. It's just like our entire life is a Ponzi scheme, if you want to look at that, right? And then this is like what Richard also says. It's just like, is everyone selling their houses on the housing market at once? It's like, no. Is everyone selling all the gold supply in the world at once? No. It's just like, if any of these events were to occur, yeah, of course it would collapse. You are looking for someone to come in and speculate after you at some point. But you know what's better in the meantime is to be earning that yield. And Hex doesn't need new people to come in to earn that yield because the yield is in the terms of Hex. So like that 38% APY, that's in terms of Hex. So Hex inflates on average of 3.69% every year, and that gets paid to the staking class. So if you're part of that staking class, you're going to get those tokens in the form of yield, and then we just translate it into APY. But that's just in the token itself. So it doesn't ever need new people to come in and pay you. You will always get more Hex. That's all Hex is ever agreeing to do. What you don't know in the future is the price. That's it. That's the risk you're taking on. If you're locking your coins up for 5 years, you're saying like, hey, I'm willing to earn that yield for the next 5 years, but at the cost of maybe the price is not good in 5 years. Maybe we're less than what we started at. Or maybe it just stayed flatline, but that's okay because you just earned like almost 38% that entire time. So you made a crazy amount of money that you couldn't make anywhere else. Again, Hex is always going to do what it says it's going to do. It's going to pay you in the terms of Hex because it's built into the code. There is no middleman. There is no person charging you a fee in between you and your money. It's an agreement that you have with the contract, nothing but lines of code that says, hey, if you want to lock up your supply, if you want to give up your ability to sell today, the contract is going to pay you in terms of inflation. And that's it.
Motley, so this is for myself, but hopefully it's helpful as well. But can you talk about like proof of work? So like Bitcoin uses proof of work, and then like the proof of stake, isn't proof of stake kind of like Bitcoin, but it's just consolidated in a sense to validators?
So proof of work is like Richard's talked about, is extremely wasteful. They actually have what's called ASIC miners to just mine Bitcoin now, because it's become so intensive that you need, God, someone can probably throw in the chat for me what ASIC stands for. Yeah, someone can get that. But it's essentially a mining rig that's focused on just doing SHA-526, which is just brute force computing. Let's see if anyone puts it in there. Brute force computing, just trying to find numbers like, okay, cool, you mined a Bitcoin block.
Something happened.
Oh, can you hear me, Joe?
I can hear you.
Molly, you cut out for a second. Go ahead.
Okay.
So.
Oh, okay, so you looked it up, Sam. So application specific integrated circuit, right? Like, so that essentially what that means is those things are only good for mining Bitcoin, nothing else. They consume a massive amount of electricity. They're just trying to brute force, trying to find that next block. If they do find that right computation, then they get a reward of, I don't know how many Bitcoins get distributed. It used to be, Richard talked about getting like 50 back in the day and he could do it on his own. Now you need entire warehouses, storage units just filled with these miners just to hope and get like one block within that day or within a couple hours, right? So proof of work, very wasteful. And it was a way to essentially make sure people didn't double spend. Essentially, when you say like, hey, I'm sending one coin to Sam, one Bitcoin, is to make sure that I actually sent that Bitcoin to you, that you actually received it. Make sure that I'm not trying to like say I did, and then I just take my coin back. So that was proof of work. It was the first thing that we came up with. It worked at the time. It's what we needed. Proof of stake is essentially just saying, hey, this person has so much economic, like, so what we're going to do it with Hex, right? We're going to have validators. We're going to have 33 validators. And the way they become 33 on Pulsechain. excuse me.
Use the hex. That's all.
Yeah, sorry. When we go to Pulsechain, so we're gonna have 33 validators. Those guys are gonna have people delegating pulse to them. So the people that have the most pulse in the ecosystem are going to become validators. And so it's in their best interest to make sure that everyone's transactions and sends are what they say they're going to be, right? And so far, proof of stake has shown to hold up, not need no fallacies, no issues whatsoever. It's just people can actually argue that it's more censorship resistant than like proof of work, because proof of work, you only have 2 or 3 companies that make the actual ASIC miners for Bitcoin. Mining is usually heavily centralized in a couple places around the world. So if you have a couple governments that want to shut it down, if you have a couple governments that put enough pressure on the people that actually make the equipment to mine it, you could really just destroy the network. Whereas proof of stake, they can set up their nodes wherever they want, right? AWS does a lot of cloud mining and data centers, but there's numerous companies throughout the world. You can set up like the 33 validators. There's a good chance they'll be spread out through different companies and around the world, and bringing down that network, I would argue, is a lot more harder to do than with proof of stake.
What
or proof of work? Excuse me.
So with Joe, did you have any questions on that?
Not yet.
Okay. Do you know how like that 38% comes about?
Yeah. So the 38%, Joe, is the average yield you're going to earn in Hex. So right now, the average stake length is 6.4 years. To get that average, clearly you need a lot more stakes going out further as well. So again, you can stake it for 1 day, or the maximum is 5,555 days. And right now, the average falls at 6.4. When people started first staking, the average was around 4.6, I think. And about the past year or two, we've gone up to 6.4 years. So pretty tremendous increase. And there's nothing that, wait, let's see. Okay, so 6.4, yep. The way it pays you the yield essentially is, remember how I said 3.69% of inflation gets printed every year?
Yep.
Well, depending on the percentage of staking class, actually, let me see if I can pull up this chart.
Or if you tell me where to go, I can always try to pull it up.
I saved it away on Telegram a long time ago. So based on the percentage of stakers, you're going to get a certain amount of coins, right? So right now, you could probably look it up on stakers, Sam, but I think there's an average of like just shy of 10% stakers out of all the coins. So about 10% of Hex is staked. So that 3.69% actually equals a lot larger number than 3.69%. So if there was only one staker in the ecosystem, you would actually be earning 369%.
Can you guys see this?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we can see it.
Yeah.
Okay, so right here, is this what it is? Is this 9 point?
Yeah, yep. So right now 9.6% of all Hex is locked up, right, Joe?
Mm-hmm.
So those people are earning 3.69% of the total supply of Hex every year. Now, since only 9.6% is currently locked up, they're going to have much higher rewards. So there's a graph. I'll look it up after this. But on average, we're earning about 38% APY. If there was one person staked in the ecosystem, they would earn all that 3.69%. So that would be the equivalent of 369%. And just the opposite, if 100% of the supply was staked, everyone would actually only be earning that 3.69%. So right now we're kind of like in that middle spot where we're actually earning high yield because a smaller percentage of the total supply is staked.
So does that like, dude, like you don't like do anything with your money until you're like comfortable, or it's what you want to do. If that's 6 months down the road, or 2 months down the road, or next year, like it's just think of it as just learning, because this type of stuff is 100% future.
Yeah,
I'll get you the graph of that, Joe. It's easier for me. I'm a more visual learner, and I'll actually show you the graph, and then I can show you that before, but just not to slow up the conversation. We can come back to that.
Okay.
He showed it. So like so there's the whole amount of tokens available for Hex, right? So say that's 1 billion tokens. So next year it would be 1,300,000,000 or whatever 3.69% times 1 billion is, right? You know, an additional 30 million or something like that, right? Well, because only 10% stake, and the staking is what helps validate transactions to make sure that nobody's scamming the system, right? Then those people who stake, you squinted. Does that make what?
No, I understand that.
Oh, okay. So that on the whole entire pool, right? That grows by 3.69%. So like it's like the government going from like where we are in the money supply, and be like, hey bitches, we're gonna increase that by 40%, right? Like what they've done over the last 24 months, 36 months, right? So they've increased the supply of dollars. That means the dollars we have are going down. But if we took those dollars and we bought real estate, just for an easy example, then the real estate would go up in value, right? And it's kind of like if you're staking in HEX, it's almost like holding real estate, so to speak, because that whole supply of 3.6% just goes to the people who staked, not to the other 90%.
It's a financial teeter-totter, right, Joe? So like let's say that percentage of people stakers starts to increase, right? Let's say it goes from 10% to 20%. Your average your average yield is going to start going down. But what's probably a side effect of that is the appreciation of the token is going up, and vice versa. If there's less stakers, okay, it's not gaining as traction. The price is probably going down, but you're going to get higher yield for it. So it teeters back and forth depending on the ecosystem at the time.
Yeah.
Motley, can you talk about like the security things? So like I know like there's the admin keys and like immutable, but I'm sure there's like 2 or 3 other things that I don't know about. So in terms of like a project or a product or like one crypto versus another, just so that like you're like, hey, HEX is not for me. We'll pay attention to these things, using them as criteria to evaluate things from a security standpoint.
Yeah.
Yes.
And see, that's one of the most beneficial things that you kind of like found yourself here, Joe. Is like HEX is probably one of the most secure cryptocurrencies that exists today. And I'm not just saying it because I'm in it, because like I've been in cryptocurrency long enough to see like 99% of this is dog shit, pitfalls, booby traps, rugs, all kinds of stuff. And what Richard has done, a couple things that he's kind of led the way, especially in the industry, is he was one of the first to popularize audits. So he actually got 3 audits done on the HEX code. So he got 2 code audits and then 1 financial economics audit to make sure all the math works. So 3 audits done. Everyone kind of followed suit in the industry afterwards. It was like a popular buzzword to say like, oh, I got this audited. Cool. All right, done. But to follow that up, HEX is also immutable. So there is no admin keys. And admin keys are essentially just something that grants you access to go back into the code and rewrite the code. And then that's where you run into issues, right? That's where you could have bugs. That's where you could have malicious actors, humans, middlemen go in there and rewrite it. And just, you can literally go in there and say, hey, send me all the funds to my wallet, stuff like that. So admin keys are very dangerous. It just allows that human factor of either error or maliciousness to come back into play when it should just be you and the code and the contract. HEX is actually immutable. So there is no admin key. There's no way for Richard to go and change the code. This is why it was delayed for over a year. They had to make sure they got it right because they didn't intend on having any admin keys. They were locking the code so no one can change it. Government can't go in there and change it. Richard can't go and change it. You and I can't go in there and change it. And for the past 2.5, 3 years, almost 3 years, it's run smoothly. No one's found a bug. No one's been able to hack it. No one's been able to change anything. And so that alone saves you from 90% of the issues with crypto is people going in there and rewriting the code, having admin keys, pulling all the money from the contract, introducing a bug that destroys the cryptocurrency catastrophically where it no longer functions, right? And this is what like 99% of crypto fails, is because they had the ability to go in there and just rework this stuff. It's actually one of the reasons why Richard had to launch Pulsechain, because if you know Ethereum, it requires gas fees to transact on. So like HEX is built on top of Ethereum. It's a layer 1 blockchain. HEX is a contract built on top of Ethereum. And right now, I don't know if you know or not, but the transact on it is very expensive. It costs a gas fee every time you do a transaction, and especially HEX that actually has to go back and look in the past to calculate how much interest you've earned, how much emergency in-stake penalties, those are people that ended their stakes earlier, you received, and then how much
This is just the gas. I'm pulling it up.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Oh, it's cheap. It's cheap. It's cheap right now.
Because of Easter, it's cheap. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I think I saw it somewhere earlier that's pretty cheap, but it's been super high for a long time now. Especially
the other day it was $1,000. It was $1,000, Joe. $1,000 to do
Don't
a
ever
fucking
pay that.
transaction. Like ridiculous.
So this goes back to Hex being immutable and the contract can't be changed. And it's kind of ingenious too because of what Richard Hart had to create. So he's essentially, and I think he always knew in the back of his mind this was probably going to be a possibility, that he was going to have to create his own layer 1 for Hex to go on, because eventually his product is built on something that he doesn't control. So with Pulsechain, since Hex is immutable and the contract can't be changed, he literally has to copy Hex over onto Pulsechain, because there's already people with existing stakes, right? People that are staked out all the way to 15 years. How do you just start anew on the new blockchain? Well, you have to copy the entire system state of Ethereum, which ended up being beautiful because that small act of having to copy everything over on a new chain is something that's never even been done before. And what he's created with this new product Pulsechain is a new layer 1. It's going to be faster, cheaper fees, higher throughput. And the kind of, I want to say it's gimmicky, but it's also just kind of brilliant, is he's copying the entire system state. So a lot of these other layer 1s, they launch a new chain, but there's nothing on them. People have to come build on it. It's just, he calls them ghost chains, right? You don't bring the entire city and the people and everything over on this new chain. Just think you're building a new city, you're not bringing anything over. He's actually going to copy the entire system state because he can't change the Hex contract. He's going to copy the entire system state of Hex over on Pulsechain, and he's going to do it with every other ERC20. Those are just other smart contracts built on Ethereum.
Can you describe? Sorry, because that's probably like, I'm assuming that might not make a lot of sense of what you're saying, like to Joe potentially. But can you talk about so Joe, I have a Hex stake out in the future. So there's something that's on top of a Hex effectively that allows me to take my Hex stake. And I just get.
He was saying Hex was on top of Ethereum, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then you can build things that are on top of Ethereum, but they're basically for Hex.
So how does
I think
I guess with Hex?
What's that?
How does Pulsechain come in with Hex?
So
because I'm not getting
Pulsechain is like, you don't need Pulsechain. Pulsechain is just because
the same code from Hex.
Pulsechain is like an exact copy of Ethereum with changes to make it faster.
Proof of stake.
Yep. So, but remember how I said yesterday, and Jeff was talking about how Ethereum is supposed to go from proof of work, meaning like the computer is like mining from proof of work to proof of stake. Yeah. So Ethereum is saying they were going to been doing this since 2016-ish, 2017.
Yeah, 5 or 6 years now.
It's been a number of years. They haven't done it yet because it's a challenging thing to do. It's like trying to change the fucking windows on a plane when the plane's moving. Like it's hard to do. And so
that's why we're fortunate enough to start it while nothing's moving, right? Like we just get a copy of Ethereum, like cool, move it over here. We get to play around with it on our testnet, and then we just get to push the button, go live. Much easier for Richard and his team to do that than Ethereum to work on the train while it's moving. So
it's like Hex is like one piece of like things that are possible in crypto, right? You can earn this trustless yield. You can earn 38% by just putting your fucking shit there. But because there's this other thing that's built on Ethereum that works with Hex, I get free coins. So this is the only one I've experienced. So Motley may have experienced other ones, but like I get free tokens from another one that I can just turn around to sell.
Talking about Hedron?
Hedron. But like, have you experienced other things where if you own a token, you can get free other tokens? Like, and then you can keep those, you can trade them into something else, or you can sell them, dude. Like,
well, that's like why I put that comment in the other day. Laura's like, I've made over $500,000 from free airdrops just because I either owned a token, used the platform like Uniswap, Mooniswap, Tornado Cash. What are some of the other airdrops you guys got? ENS. All these different things, and it was essentially just using these different platforms in DeFi, or like this latest one with Hex, just owning Hex. It was a Hex holder that came out with Hedron and decided everyone that had Hex stakes would get Hedron as well. and yeah, it's just been a crazy amount of money over the years. And like even people make fun of me in the community because like there's people do stuff in DeFi where they try to predict like new coins are going to get airdropped to. And like so like MetaMask like is the wallet that I'm sure Sam has showed you that most of us use on Ethereum. Like I think personally MetaMask will do an airdrop someday. You don't know what the criteria are to qualify for it, but you can like make educated guess or like um reduce the chances of you not getting it, right? So like probably using their MetaMask swap feature would probably be a criteria because they make money off that. Owning the wallet in the first place, obviously that would be a no-brainer. Some criteria in the past has been, oh, you have to transact a certain amount of money. Okay, do that. Like maybe trade one Ethereum back and forth. Maybe it's multiple transactions. Maybe one of the ones I actually lost out on airdrop not too long ago was because the U.S. Regulations are so strict, they actually eliminated all the people that transacted that were their VPN was showing them coming from the United States. If you weren't using a VPN to like get you outside the states,
Oh,
if they could,
interesting.
if they flagged your transaction coming from the U.S., you weren't eligible for the airdrop. So I actually lost out on about $100,000 of free money that wallets I had prepped beforehand. This was for DYDX, and I didn't get them because I didn't use a VPN when I was doing my
There,
transactions.
that is literally. I talked to Tex Tangent on Twitter. He was on the other day, and I was
Yeah.
trying to figure out like the best value proposition for a VPN. And he's talking
Yeah.
about privacy and this, that, and the other
Yeah,
thing.
well, those are good. Yeah.
Well, yeah, no, correct.
This was me airdrop hunting, right? And like so I mean there's opportunity costs with that as well, right? Like I was giving up time, I was operating on gas fees. Like nowadays if the gas is super high, just it doesn't really make sense. And it's all, again, I'm speculating on people doing an airdrop, right? So it may never happen. MetaMask might not ever release a token. One that we do know that's probably going to happen, which is actually again a lot of people involved in the Hex ecosystem, is something called Genosis Safe, and that's what Staker app uses. And if you guys don't know, that's essentially like encapsulated stakes like Hedron is doing. So hex stakes that are wrapped up. And the people that actually have the Gnosis safes, they're talking about doing an airdrop. So you're probably going to get an airdrop from them. I think it's called Safe Token. I was actually just reading about it today on Twitter. And then the staker guys, Steph and Firebun, who are community members, I bet you they probably release a token as well for people who actually use their
Oh wow,
their staker app. So we could end up getting 2 airdrops here soon from maybe the staker app guys and the people that actually created the Gnosis safe, which is what staker uses. So there might be, and again, that's just the Hex community with the products and stuff we use is going to get paid free money. And it just kind of nullifies everything we've been taught, right? Like if it's too good to be true, then it probably is. Like crypto erases all of that. Like you can make hundreds of thousands of dollars for free, and it's just literally people giving you money. And because of speculation and people out there looking at this, it has value. People transact. People are willing to give you one thing for another, and yeah, it's crazy.
So, quick question about the airdrops: are the airdrops actually like into your wallet? Is that something you could take out without penalties? How exactly does that work?
Yeah, it depends. Sometimes they're automatically dropped to your wallet. Sometimes you have to go to the site and claim them.
That's what I had to do. So when I did Hedron, I did the Hex thing, and then it's like, oh, this thing's coming out. If you want this thing for free, you go to their specific website and you just press claim. You basically connect your wallet to the site and you press claim, and then you're done. And then it shows up. It shows up, but I haven't experienced what Motley was saying, where it goes into my wallet.
Well, I take that back. Couple caveats. So one, you're right. I don't think it ever, because you always have to run a function. So like, yes, you have to go and claim these usually on their actual site. Now, caveats with that, going back to security and safety, you have to be very careful, right? You have to make sure you're actually going back to the right site. You have to make sure they're not malicious actors, and the airdrop isn't just a setup to gain access to your wallet. Because if you don't know what you're doing, when you go to the website and you go to claim your tokens, and it'll MetaMask will always like notify you. It's like, hey, this site is trying to gain these permissions, and usually you just want the one where it's trying to read your wallet just so it can see like, okay, he's eligible for these coins. There's sometimes where the permissions are just like, hey, they have the ability to extract infinity amount of money if they want to from this wallet, and they can just drain your wallet. So you have to be very careful what permissions you are granting these websites when you're interacting with your wallet. So if you don't know what you're doing, it's good to reach out to people that do. And there's even like me, right? Like I don't read code, but there's a lot of trusted people in this community that I've known for the years and years that I do know that are amazing coders, and I'll reach out to them and like, hey, is this safe? Is this good? There's no crazy permissions it's asking for my wallet, is there? They give me the thumbs up. All right, cool. But like I need that verification before I connect my wallet to not jeopardize the security of it.
Because remember GRC from yesterday, dude? Like he clicked on some link, and that's how his wallet got compromised.
He did maybe he did a lot of stuff.
He doesn't know. He doesn't know.
Yeah.
Okay, well he doesn't know.
He gave his seeds to his secretary. Don't do that. He bought his mom bought him a ledger from Amazon. Don't do that. He probably gave permissions to his wallet that he should never have. Don't do that. Like he did like so many things you could never like pinpoint what it actually was. So I love him, but yeah, just don't. he literally like went through the book of what not to do and just did all of them. So it's hard. You can't even pin back exactly where he lost security of his wallet.
That's why I'm like, you were like, hey, let's do it. Let me do this with $500. Just take a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Do however long you need to educate and learn the details of all of this stuff. I'm here. Keep like watching the stuff on YouTube, listening to the stuff. Like Motley's super helpful.
This is a good segue into security too, right? Because again, I was just reading something on Twitter and this is with MetaMask, and this is one reason like I tell people never to do anything on their phone. This one guy just found out if you have your MetaMask wallet on your phone, again, they're much easier to breach than say like a dedicated computer device that you use your crypto for and only crypto. People are using their phones, and if you have MetaMask wallet, and this is on the iPhone, they haven't looked into it if it's on the Android, but if you enable your iPhone to back up your apps via the cloud, it was actually writing the seed words when you install the MetaMask wallet and uploading it to the cloud. And I was going through the thread, and even one of the MetaMask devs actually came in there and confirmed it was true. And so like if you guys have your MetaMask wallet on an iPhone right now and you allow it to back up your app's data to the cloud, there's a good chance that your seed words have been routed to the cloud. And so now if anyone ever compromises your phone, if they get in there, whatever ways, and there's numerous ways to break into phones, you're done. They can go up into your cloud. They can search for those 12 to 24 C words, and you're gone. And this is why security is so important, Joe, because like once those seed words go out, that person will forever have access to your wallet. You can move it to a fresh wallet, but and this is what's even tougher with Hex, right? This is why if you're going to get into Hex, you really have to make sure your security is good, because when you stake, you can't take it out. Those stakes, because it's you and code, like you can't take them out early. So the only access you have to those stakes is via that wallet. So if that wallet ever gets compromised, those stakes are forever compromised.
And Joe, this is why like I only put in a teensy little bit, because I was like, I know I'm gonna fuck shit up.
Well, that's the exact plan I had. Like throwing $100, test things out, see how it goes. That was another question I was gonna have for you. So like you put in a stake on Hex, and like say you go, I want my 6.4 years, like we were saying earlier.
Yep.
I do that. Now say I'm like, okay, I'm really liking this. Now I go to throw in another $1,000. Is that a whole nother stake, or is that included on the first stake that I already put in on?
Yep, another stake. You can never add to a stake. You can never continue it once it's up for completion. And it goes back to the mechanic that you guys are kind of touching on, but it's the whole nuts and bolts of Hex is the T-share rate. And there's a reason why you can't just add to your stake or decide when your stake ends that you just, I actually want to continue this and go out longer. There's a reason for that. Sam, I know I messaged you earlier. Were you able to put like a dummy MetaMask on your streaming computer?
I was trying to do a separate video just to show through like, so Joe, I had put it on, I didn't know what Motley was saying in terms of the staking, right? That it's tied to that wallet. So I was like, okay, I'll put it on here and then I'll just move my stake to somewhere else so that it's not there. And I realized that it was tied to this. That's why I was like, okay, this is perfect. Just a teeny little bit so I can learn how to do this. Now, like that is stuck to that wallet. So like I've made plenty of mistakes with that wallet. So it could be compromised. I don't know at this point. But like going, no, by the way, I don't have it up on this computer yet. I was going to set it up this morning for a video, but I never ended up getting it set up. So can you this is for myself, but also hopefully helpful for Joe. If somebody is, because we talked about, I'm refinancing my house and I'm going to be pulling money and I'm going to be utilizing a large portion of it to just go into crypto. From a security standpoint, right? I have a separate device, right? Like a separate laptop that I don't use for anything else other than crypto. Anything like, so go to Coin, wire that into Coinbase and then take the money from Coinbase and send it to a wallet on the separate device, that right? And then at that point, what is there anything else that I should do on top of that?
So the biggest the biggest thing, like you said, I'm pretty big advocate. I know Wales is a big advocate on this as well. Just having a dedicated device like you're doing is probably one of the best things you can do. Some people argue either way, whatever. It's pretty damn secure, right? Like you're not downloading any extra exe files. You're not going surfing the internet. You're not using it as your porn computer. You're not using it to dabble in anything that's going to compromise the system, right? Wipe that sucker clean, start it up, go to metamask.io, no other website, download that wallet, get those seeds, get them off. And you shouldn't do anything else, right? Like it should just be transacting just in your crypto. You shouldn't be downloading anything else to that. That right there is a huge, that's a good step in your security. You can take it a step further. You can do hardware wallets to kind of air gap that machine. So like I'm a fan of Trezor now. I used to start with, so the two big hardware wallets are Ledger and Trezor. I started with a Ledger and now I'm fully Trezor, and I like Trezor way much more because it gives you more options for security. So hardware wallet is going to further air gap you from that dedicated device you're using, and the seed words are going to be saved on that device, not on your computer or in your MetaMask. So that, yep.
Question on that. Okay, so with what, right, refinancing house, pulling the money, putting it, transferring it. So when I transfer the seed words to the Trezor, or set it up. Oh, here we go.
No, you can leave that down. You can leave that
okay.
down. We're not going to get into that yet.
Okay. When I'm going to be transferring it over, I have that plugged into the computer to set that up so that the seed phrases are not on there. So if I want to create a separate wallet, I can just have, because like that's going to be one investment.
You can interact with a MetaMask, but it's going to be using the seed words that are held on your device.
Okay, so it's safer to do that? Is basically what you're saying, though.
I think so. Again, I'm not the super safety expert. If you want more information, and I'll actually post this link in the chat. And for the other guys, there's a really good Hex Telegram channel called Hex Security. And if you have any questions when you're setting it up, these are the go-to guys. Now, I'll caveat that with, don't ever answer anyone's like, and this is the problem, right? When people have gone hacked in this Hex security group, because there's also bad actors in that group too, right? They wait for the new guys to come in and have their questions, and they privately DM them. So like if you're in there, Joe, asking questions, make sure you keep it all public, because the admins and everyone can see it and say, hey, that's right, you're good. Whereas you'll see the malicious actors, they'll DM you like, hey, I would love to help you, da 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 da, and they'll do it behind the scenes, and they'll rob you blind. So caveat this, the Telegram group is amazing, but make sure you don't, it's also a prime target for malicious actors to sit there and wait for newbies to come in there, ask their questions, and then they reach out to them privately and try to jack them. So, and
I've literally had that, Joe, I've had that happen with I was with the Hedron one. I was just trying to figure out how to actually do the claiming, because that was like, I'm brand new too. And as soon as I posted, I was like, hey guys, this is the issue I'm having. Yeah, immediately I got 4 messages from 4 different people. Bad. Oh, I'll help you. You just got to click on this link or whatever. Like, and I was like, oh man, this is crazy.
yeah. Biggest things, Joe, is never click on links when they get sent to you. Yeah. And you will never ever have to enter your seed words ever. Like after you set up your wallet
with any person,
anything, like the moment you type in those seed words somewhere, it's like, oh, don't worry, I'm MetaMask support. Nope, not a thing. But the moment you put your seed words in there, it's done. They have your wallet and you fucked up. And a lot of people realize it after the fact. They're like, oh shit, like I messed up. And it's it though. That wallet is now exposed. So I went ahead and put that Telegram group in our private chat, guys, and then I think I also throw it up in the YouTube channel, so you guys can grab that. Again, and this goes for anyone, if you have questions and everything, that's fine. Just make sure it's publicly answered in that group. And if anyone starts DMing you privately, they're probably trying to scam you for all your money. Just ignore them. And then there's another good feature in like Telegram where you can make sure no one can add you to any random groups, because then you have people trying to add you to groups where you think it's the group that you want to go to, but it's not. They've made like a fake group, or they made like say a fake copy of me and they just took my profile picture and changed the spelling of my words where it's close but not exact. You just have to be
Joe,
very
be
careful.
aware of that, what he just mentioned, because
Yeah.
people do that all the time. Like people will take my profile, like in like the stuff that I do online, and they'll copy it, or they'll take Motley's and they'll be like, oh, hey, this is Motley profile. They'll take exact profile, they'll buy followers. So Motley say has 7,000 followers. So they'll buy 7,000 followers. They'll create exactly the verbiage he has in his profile, and they'll be like Motley investor, and then they'll put a period. And so it looks like him, and people who are brand new be like, oh, I've heard of Motley. I watched some of his YouTube videos. And then they're getting a DM from somebody they think they trust, and then they're gonna get fucked in some way. So be very, very, very careful about that shit. Like if you see like somebody's profile asking you to do something that like related to your seed words, you're clicking on this link.
Yeah.
Like, bye, bitch.
I love hearing the idea of using dedicated computers, because you know that I've already done that. You knew that. I built computers specifically for my day
for years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Done that for a long time. Yeah.
Yeah, like Squirrel says, like he does his dedicated device and then he runs encrypted Linux, and that's it.
Yeah, I know. That's nice.
Yep. So to each their own. You can essentially set up as many layers of security as you want, and yeah, you'll be fine. The golden rule is just no one gets your seed phrase.
Gotcha.
Fuck off, bro. What's up, bro?
So Joe, where are you at right now? Like we've talked about a bunch of stuff. Like what are you thinking? Like what are your?
I'm definitely wanting to try. I want to see what happens. I want to learn more.
Let's get into the gravy. Let's pull up the share screen that I have.
Yeah.
Let's have fun with the numbers. Okay, let me.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna make my full screen just so I can see this here.
Okay, let me just pull this here. Move my.
So Joe, this is like the back end. So when you go and you stake, then you pull up this screen. So this is like go.hex. If you go to hex.com, you can click through. It says stakes or something, and it takes you to this site here. And when you do stake, this is one way to check your balances or like how your stuff is doing. So you can.
Oh, whoops! I'm doing the wrong thing.
You can do that through here, or there's also an app you can do too. To like,
you guys use Coinbase to connect this, is what you were saying, right, earlier?
Not Coinbase. You're gonna use your wallet to connect with it. So MetaMask or
Coinbase come in on Trust Wallet, MetaMask, or I forgot the other one that interfaces with go.hex.com.
Also, dude, if you buy a hardware wallet, which he was talking about Ledger and Trezor. Right, those are don't buy them off of eBay because people can put shit on it that steals your stuff, and only go to like what is it, Trezor? I haven't bought
Trezor.io.
Trezor.io or Ledger.
Okay.
Ledger, I'm not sure. I think it's ledger.com, but I don't know, so I don't want to say yay or nay. Trezor, I do know it's Trezor.io.
Oh, Trezor, like Trezzer?
It should be one Z.
Oh, okay.
ZOR.
VOR. Okay, cool.
All right. And then
all right, cool.
Good question. Go ahead, get into this.
So we're gonna get into the meat and potatoes here. Remember how you were asking earlier, just like, oh, if I stake out for the 6.4 years, can I, if I do another for $100, can I add $1,000 to it later? Or like I was telling you, like some people their stake ends and they're like, well, can I just continue it? You can't, right? And I'm gonna explain to you why you can't, and then what makes this system so unique and how this. Essentially, it's going to replicate compounding interest without acting like compounding interest. Because if you had compounding interest in this system, people would staking out longer wouldn't be better. If you would be able to do just short stakes, a lot of hex, and you just be able to roll right and just grow. And so compounding interest doesn't work. So they needed to find a way to replicate something that kind of simulated compounding interest, but didn't actually. It actually benefited you to stake out longer as opposed to shorter, because again, they want you to give up your ability to sell. You're essentially being the scarcity in the market, and you'll earn the yield via inflation, giving up your ability to sell. But it has to be advantageous for you to stake longer as opposed to being shorter and just being able to roll short stakes over. And so the system they came up with to make this happen, is the T-share system. It's called T-shares. So T-share, it just stands for a trillion shares. All right. It's kind of you can really just think of them as shares. We just call them T shares because right now it stands for a trillion shares. But a trillion shares has gone harder and harder to afford over time. Eventually, someday we might call them B shares, billion shares, then million shares. You know, it could just go down like that. Essentially, they're just shares, but we call them T shares because 1 trillion shares. So what I've done right here is up here is the stake amount, right? So I put in this, it seems like a random arbitrary number, right? 21,317 hex. But there's a reason why I'm doing this. Do you see the share price right here where it says 21,317 hex per T share?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that is how much hex it takes you to get 1 trillion shares today. Now this number is always going up. It will never be less than it is today. So 21,000.
That's in the code where the T
Yep.
share.
Well,
Okay.
we'll talk about it here in a second.
Okay.
But just for right now, this number will always be larger in the future. It will never get smaller. It will never be less than what it is today, right now. So I put in how much it costs for me to get 1 T-share. And let's say I want to stake 1 day, right? All right. I staked 1 day. If you look down here, this is going to tell me how many T-shares I'm going to get for that 1 day. I'm going to get 0.9991 T-share, essentially, right? Understand that so far, Joe? Following?
Yep.
So if we go back here real quick, let's see, right here. This is your daily hex payout per T-share. So per trillion shares, this is how much hex you're getting paid out per day, right? So the last payout was whatever. I'll just click on one of these because they're all about the same.
Yeah.
About six hex per T-share, right? So it's going to cost you that 21,000 something hex to get 1 T-share. You're going to get 1 payout for that 1 day. You're going to get 6 additional hex. That's it. And then your stake's over. Just to go over a brief synopsis of this, it seems like a steeper incline right here, right?
Mhm.
For the first like 350 something days. This was actually on the beginning of hex when the initial supply was being minted. So every day, 500 million, roughly about 500 million new coins was coming into existence. So that's why it actually looks like a steady slope upwards. The supply was increasing much more exponentially than it is today, right? So we had this is essentially created the initial supply of hex until after Big Payday. After Big Payday, that ramp up of the token supply was done. And then from then on, it was 3.69% inflation per year. So now what you've seen over this next year or so is it looks flatline, right? Again,
Yeah,
it's a
like
lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot less inflation than what it was when we were creating the initial supply over those 350 something days. But in reality, over the next, remember how I told you could stake from 1 day to 5,555 days?
Yep.
In reality,
Oh, I think we lost him for a second.
Sam's internet.
I don't think it's mine. Can you hear me, Joe?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
I think it might be Molly. Wherever he's wherever he is. But basically, if you go further into the future, it costs less per T share.
Well, that's what I was figuring. So I'm guessing that these are the long-term traders who are going to be the ones who are, I call them traders, the long-term investors who are going to be staying in. That's why the line is flattening out, I'm guessing.
hey, can you guys?
You cut out for a second.
Yeah. So I may or may not be able to continue this on because I have Starlink for my internet out here because my parents live in the boondocks, and I just heard thunder and lightning, or I heard thunder, so I probably have a storm coming in, and my signal might go in and out. So we'll see how far we get. So sorry. Of course, this is right during like the nitty gritty of everything, but so what I was trying to say is, over the next 15 years, this line looks flat, but it's actually you have an S curve. So this is actually going to be going up over time, and then it'll eventually round out. But right now it looks flat, but actually as the years go on, it's going to be going. It is parabolic. It'll be going up like this.
Right.
But it's just going to be at a lesser rate than when we first launched because it's just doing 3.69% of the total supply.
So there's going to be more hex paid out per T share in the future.
Yes, sir. So, and this is why it's good to accumulate as many T-shares as you can early on, because that payout as the total supply gets larger is also going to increase. So today you might be getting paid around an average of 6 hex per T-share, but over time you could be getting, you'll eventually be getting paid 10, 15, 20, 30 hex per T-share. And you want as many of those T-shares in the system now while you can get them cheaper as opposed to when they become more and more costly, and we'll get into why they get more costly over time as well, or they have a very high probability to become more costly. But yeah, so this is actually going up like this. You just can't see it yet because it's going at a much slower rate than what it was initially when we first launched.
Okay.
So the hex payout for each t-shirt you have is going to be going up and up and up over time, and it's going to be 10, 15, 20, 30 hex per t-share, as opposed to it's at 6 right now.
You see those pink dots? Those pink dots, Joe, are like, if you know how if you put something out there for 6.4 years and then you're like, hey, F this, I don't want to do this anymore. Well, then that causes
Penalties.
you to loot penalties, and that goes to the people who said, hey, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm actually going to do it.
So
Go ahead.
let's talk about that, Joe. So just like Sam was saying, these are outliers, right? So this one that I'm on right now is the highest payout that we've ever received in the system. Instead of giving like what we should have been getting, like an average of about 6 that day, we got 24. So you got 4 times your payout that day. That one day you got 4 times the hex. What had happened was, and this day was really sad, actually, believe it or not. Sad, but then it also shows you kind of how the system works so beautifully. So what had actually happened here was actually one of our largest players in the ecosystem got hacked, and so his seed phrase got hacked.
His seed phrase got hacked, dude, and they end staked it. So they basically they can't take his money because there's not going to be anything when you end stake it. Yeah. So when they end stake it, all of what he did earn up to that point, like it goes into the people who had staked. So that's why they got so much at that time. It also happens in reverse. Like, so say if you're like, hey, I staked my stuff for 2 years, and during that 2-year period of time, you lose your seed phrase, or
Hi
guys.
Back? Yeah, I'm back. God dang it! I love talking about this shit. And of course, there's a damn storm rolling up. Elon, make your satellites penetrate through storms better.
Starlink, pick it up.
Oh my god, it usually works great except during storms, and it's frustrating. But
are you using Starlink? I'm sorry.
What's that?
Are you using Starlink?
Yeah, I am using Starlink.
No
My
shit.
parents.
Works that well?
Yeah, it works amazing when there's no storms. But it sounds like there's a storm rolling in, unfortunately. But yeah, it absolutely works amazing. Love it. My parents live in the middle of the boonies, and there's no internet out here besides Dish. So this is it's phenomenal.
What is that? $75 a month?
$100. But like,
$100.
I mean, I'm getting when there's not a storm, I'm getting download speeds of like 250 to 300, and then upload speeds of like 50, 60 megabytes. Like, it's really cool.
Wow.
I didn't know that.
That's dope. Yeah.
Yeah, it's and you get that in the middle of nowhere too. It's pretty amazing.
That's incredible.
It's incredible. Elon's killing it with it.
So I just told him, like, basically that person got end staked, from my understanding.
Yep.
And then he gave up all that shit.
Oh fuck. You guys still hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so he got hacked. The hacker started end stake. Mind you, this is one of the largest players in the ecosystem, right? Hundreds of millions of hacked, and all their stakes were getting ended. But it sucked because he was hacked also. But what was beautiful about how the system works is the hacker didn't get all the money, because as he started going further out in this person's wallet, they were getting less and less hex because they were accruing more and more penalties. So yes, one of the biggest players got hacked in our ecosystem, but the hacker, instead of getting over $100 million worth of hex, or a couple $100 million worth of hex, got like $1 million or $2 million, couple million. And meanwhile, the rest of the ecosystem got a 4x payout that day. The hacker got as little as possible to dump on the market. And it's just, even in the worst case scenarios that people would ever have to face, it still kind of protects the ecosystem. It insulates it from bad actors and events like this occurring.
That's an interesting way you put that, because somebody really big gets hacked, and what is that person going to do? They're going to take that shit and they're going to dump that shit so they can do something else with it. And that didn't get to happen. I mean, like a little bit, but like
this wallet was worth well over $100 million. and they could have dumped, if they had access to all those funds, they could have nuked the hex price to damn near zero, like instantly. But they couldn't. They only got like a couple million from it.
So you're
And
basically preventing the pump and dump completely by doing
well,
that.
you're yeah,
Almost.
well, from a catastrophic event of someone's like a large player's like wallet getting hacked or something like this.
Yeah. Or a large player
But
to screw everybody and trying to drop out.
yeah, and that's another thing. So if you go down to this dot, let's see if I can do this.
The one above the break.
Yeah, this was the second highest of the time. This was, and like I know both these people, right? So the first one, the guy's name was Hex 19. Oh, I missed it. Whatever.
Well, we know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, the first one was Hex 19. Amazing older gentleman. I believe he's one of the oldest Hexicans. He's like in his 80s. Awesome guy. We in the community came together, had a lot of talks about security. Everyone's security got better. We made the best out of a shitty situation. The second highest payout, which was almost like 13 hex per T share, and this was before Big Payday even occurred. The guy that did this actually had hundreds of millions of hex too, and it was funny because we were all talking. We just started seeing the end stakes coming up, and we're like, "Yo, is this person hacked? Is this person hacked?" And the guy started chatting with us in the Telegram. His name was CM on the Telegram. He was just like, "Oh, I'm not hacked, guys. Like, Hex has done incredibly well. I didn't like it's out. It's like essentially like flipped my entire crypto portfolio. Like he was talking about, he's like, I was successful early on, retired. He's like, my portfolio is like too unbalanced. Hex is way too much value in my portfolio now. Yeah. I know, it's crazy. Everyone's saying like, bro, you're crazy. He's like, it's cool. He's like, I have a couple longer stakes out there. He's like, I'm okay taking the profit now, taking the penalties. You guys enjoy your payout that day. Everyone was like loving the payout, and he walked away with, I believe it was like $1 million something, and he was happy. He's like, I'm happy with where we're at, and so he was happy. The stakers got paid out. Like everyone was happy that day. I was like, man, this system is beautifully designed. I was like, holy shit. And I found him not too long ago in another Telegram group the other day, and I was talking to him. I was like, oh shit. I was like, you're the CM way back in the day? He's like, yeah. I was just like, I was talking to you and you were doing all that. He's like, yeah. But he's still in the Hex ecosystem. Bro, he has a stake out like that's 10 years. That's like almost 100 million hex or something like that. One stake. It's crazy. So he's still good in the ecosystem. He just like, yeah, it was good. Like it flipped too much of his crypto portfolio. He wanted to rebalance. I still think he's crazy for it to this day, but we got paid for it. He was happy. It was a well-designed system.
That's
but
incredible.
yeah, so this is the payout. We talked a little bit about this. Now let me go. This is the price of that T-share since the beginning to today. So if you see, we started up here around, there was so much FOMO the first day, everyone aped it. And this is like, we started off really high, and then you can see here, the chart just kind of died. And this actually kind of replicates what the Hex chart looks as well, the price chart. This is just for the T-share cost. And what had happened was like, we've been waiting a year for this product to come out. We all like just FOMO'd in, and me included. I think I put like 8 Ethereum in that day because I wanted to start my staking ladder. I wanted to start creating a staking ladder the next 15 years. So I wanted that all built out. And so I'm like, I need a little bit more hex. So I was entering this adoption amplifier with more Ethereum. After the next day or two, it was very clear that was going to trend downward. So you're much better to DCA, dollar cost average in. And so that's what a lot of us started doing. It's like, all right, well, dollar cost average in. But the lowest point you could get a T-share back in the day was 60 cents. You could get a trillion shares for 60 cents.
And we lost. So you basically 60 cents got you one T-shirt. One T-shirt today is like $2,000.
Bro, this looks exactly like one of my charts, one of my Euro USD charts, where the start of the day breaks out down and then trends up the rest of the day. Literally exactly like a price action chart. Yeah.
And this is like I wish I'd known about it back then, but like, you mad? I mean, like, even if you got that shit for fucking 60 cents and now it's worth $2,000 basically for the price of the T-shirts. So in the code for T-shirts, it's designed so that the T-share price, if you say put in, he'll probably do a better job of explaining this, but if you put in, say, to buy one T-shirt, we're going to completely lost it. We can always come back next weekend or something if you're interested. If you put in to buy a T-shirt today, and say you're going to do it for 3 months. So if you do, let me add him back on here. If he,
I hate this so much. Dang it.
So, it might be better to keep it with the picture off for a minute if the internet's at that bad.
I'm gonna try to see if that helps ease the pain right now.
Can you talk? So I was just trying to explain why the T-share price always goes up.
I got you. Can you pull up my screen while we do it?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. So like I was saying before I got cut off, 60 cents was the lowest you could buy it. Today we're sitting at a price just shy of like $3,000. So very far away we've come from 60 cents to $3,000. And as you can see, yes, there's some dips in the price of a T-share over time, but mostly this chart is going up and to the right, and there's a reason for it. Again, with how this is actually designed. So we'll go back to the stakes. All right. So remember earlier that was 21,317 hex per T-share, and that number will always go up in terms of hex over time.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right.
Elon's trying to rug you.
Elon's like, fuck you.
So I think, remember how he was talking about the compounding interest kind of thing? Like, why, if you're going to get this compounded rate of interest, then people would just do like 1 month at a time, every single time, right? So in order to like give people an incentive to do it longer, instead of just everybody stays at 1 month or 1 day. If you're going to get the same amount of return, whether it's 1 day or 1 month, why do a month? Let's just do a day. So it's done in some way where if I did a 1 month stake and I got one T-share, then in that month, when that comes due within 1 month, if I take all of that, what I've earned and what I've made, no worries, Molly. I think he's still listening. No worries, dude. If you can't continue, like maybe come on back on next weekend if you're interested or something, or if Joe wants to still talk in the future. But I appreciate it.
You guys want to? Jesus, this is awesome. I'm loving that.
Hey, okay. Molly,
yeah, I know. Hold on. Try.
So
yeah.
So that T-share price will, in 1 month from now, say about one. Now, if I took all what I earned over that past month and then my original amount that I put in, and I did it again, then I would earn a tiny bit less than in one T-share.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't want me to be able to take buy one for say $2,000 today, and in 1 month plus my interest buy another T-share. It wants me to buy a little bit less in there, so I can from my understanding of it. Is so that
I saw a bunch of pullbacks in the range that he was, or in the trend that he was trading, and he said that the T-shares never drop below the price of the show. If you ever how do they
what creates a T-share is adoption, like increasing stakes. So if you have so there's that thing I was just telling you about, and then you're like, well, how could it go in the other direction? If there's a boatload of, from my understanding, right? If there's a lot of new people, then coming on board, and please, somebody who's watching, like, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but yeah, I think it's disconnected. Thank you, Motley. I appreciate you coming on and helping share.
Yeah, thanks, Motley, so much. Appreciate it, man.
So if there's a boatload of new people coming on, that's how T-share is created.
So here Erwin said again the same thing. The amount of hex for a T-share will always go up, and so I hear that, and again, I'm a price action trader, so when I see the charts you guys show, I still see pullbacks. I don't understand how your T-share price is always going up.
And from that thing I just described about like doing 1 month and then at the end of the month taking your earnings, that's going to drive the price up. Now, what's going to drive the price down is a bunch of new people coming in.
Okay.
Because that's how you create new T-shares.
Yeah. So you're always so they're saying in the end it'll always be going up, but at certain points it could do pullbacks like a normal.
Correct.
Okay. Oh, correct. That's what I was asking.
Gotcha. And because it's like anybody who's there's T-shares, the only way they're created is when you take hex and you stake it for the future. So I wish there was somebody who was more knowledgeable at this. The chart, what does it say? The chart she is the amount of hex for a t-shirt times the price. Basically, if new people put in open up hex stakes, then they get t-shares. So the t-shares, the quantity of the t-shares increases.
Oh, he's talking about the price volatility of USD of hex. Okay.
T-share in terms of hex is always going up. There is still some price volatility in USD of hex. Motley.
No, I know.
Hey, Motley, can you, why? Yeah, we'll have to do this again.
Like, if he's got a storm, there's going to be almost no chance.
yeah. No, there's no way he's not going to be able to do that or whatever. But, we went over a lot of shit today, dude. Like, we went over a lot of.
Loving this, yeah.
Okay. What is there any questions you have about any of the stuff we talked about right now?
Because of specific wallets people use out there. What are you guys using that's the best?
MetaMask is the one that
MetaMask is what I've heard so far, yeah.
But MetaMask is the I'll try to pull this up here and share my screen with you.
So the way I learn is I definitely got to try. So I got to take $100 and try. I got to see what happens, create my own thing, and
that's what I did.
You can create a new wallet down the road. I screw up, whatever. It's $100.
Correct. So this is the MetaMask, but remember, do this on the other device. Don't. Yep. Okay. Now, also, when you go through and do this, I don't know if I can do it right now on the stream. I have to add it to my browser, right? You can add it as an extension to your browser. So that's how I did mine. Now, you're going to get 12 words as a seed phrase. Now, those 12 words, write it literally on a piece of paper, or if you have one of those things for engraving, engrave that. Because if you lose those words, you're fucked. That money's gone.
Yep.
Okay. So put it down, put it into the safe, right? Write it down. But remember, if your house burns down, then that shit's gone too. So maybe putting it on metal is a really good idea. I haven't done it yet, but I have only done tiny little bits at a time. So you set this up on the other computer, copy your words, put in $100 into Coinbase, transfer that $100 to this on the other wallet.
I understand what you're saying. I'm just reading.
Yep. Okay, so let's read some of these comments. So Motley says pouring down there. Hey, Motley, appreciate you taking the time on Easter to share.
Yeah, thank you so much, man. That's awesome.
Red Squirrel, the system looks for the stake that gained the highest ROI that day. And
I am probably down to finish this on the phone if you wanted to afterwards.
Well, I'm sure that we do later this week or in
any day
next weekend.
I just won't be during the weekdays. I can't do 3 o'clock. That's the only issue.
No, yeah, but maybe in the evening, during the week, or
I can do evenings, yeah.
That day and ratchet up the rate so that they can never regain the rate with the same amount of hex and time stake. Does that make sense? This is what I was talking about.
Okay.
So it's all, that's why it's, one of the reasons it's driving up the price of a T share. Remember, a T share is just it takes the T share, all it represents is how much inflation you're getting in the system.
Yeah.
So this is, I'm sure somebody else can do a way better job of explaining this than I can. MetaMask plus using a Ledger hard wallet is a perfect combination. So remember how he was talking about Treasure or Ledger?
Yeah, Ledger hard wallets. I heard about those. Yeah, I would definitely want to use a hard wallet down the road for sure.
Yes.
Especially once I put larger amounts of money in. Yeah.
And if it's and you probably know more about this because on the tech side, on the computer side, you know more about that. Mm-hmm. So if you use MetaMask on the computer, and if you do say that computer, you just destroy that computer, but you still have your seed words, you can take those seed words and recover any wallet you have. You can take those seed words and put them onto a Ledger or Treasure. So
okay, yeah.
Motley says, we can finish this over the phone too, Joe. We were
Monday evening. Yeah, I can do tomorrow after work.
Yeah.
Anytime after 4 will probably be fine.
Motley, if you're around tomorrow in the afternoon, evening, Joe, you have Twitter, but you haven't used it in in like a decade.
Yeah, I'll get back on Twitter now that I got you guys. I mean,
yeah, dude, the community of like people that are helpful is like way different than any other community I fucking bet.
I bet this is awesome. Yeah, I only met a few actual traders on Twitter, and I don't know. We never really talk.
Yeah, exactly. But you, dude, if like you go literally, if you take $100 and you do this and be like, okay, cool, I'm gonna do this for a year, right? Put your $100 out for 6 months, 3 months, do whatever is appropriate for you, right? I put mine out for 15 years just because I wanted to try see what it's fucking like. It was 75
Yeah,
bucks.
I want to see what my return on the investment is, and
Yep.
how quick it is. Yeah.
And so mine started at like 30%, and I think last time I checked it was.
You also said that the percentages change also, right? Like, so like right now you showed me what it was 38%, like, but you also showed me one that's at 100-something%.
Yeah, so that I don't know if I fully understand that yet.
Okay.
So but mine started at 30%. When I sent it up, it said 30% right after the first day of rotation, because it's done at 8 p.m. every day.
Like right now, Hex says 38%.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and maybe somebody in the comments will know what that is. Let me see if I can pull. Well, I took my shit off of this computer, so I can't pull up mine to show you. But I can always like take a screenshot of it and then text it to you so you get to see it or whatever. That way, I don't dox myself or something. But we'll tentatively plan for tomorrow. Everybody in the comments, you're awesome. Thanks.
Yeah,
for the
thank
help.
you guys so much. I really appreciate this. This is incredible. I never had people that help me like this, at least in trading. So this is going to be awesome,
bro. Or the gym, I mean, like we got help in the gym, but like not the same. It's not the same at all. So, yeah, just keep dude. Like when you're driving tomorrow, doing your work.
That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put up Richard Hart. Yeah,
and just like that process. And if you don't do it for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, cool. Doesn't matter. Just get into. Once you start going in this, bro, you're gonna be like, holy shit.
That's why I'm already. I think you already got me there. I'm already liking this.
Yes. If you guys enjoyed this, make sure you press the like button, the subscribe button. If you want to catch the stuff in the future, Joe will probably be on Twitter by the end of the week or something.
Yes,
like that, so.
I'll get on it. I'll go figure it out here in my next few minutes.
Cool. Hey, thanks everybody. I'm gonna end the broadcast. And